So over the last few years, I've used this exact funnel to generate upwards of 40% of my clients' total store revenue. Most of this success can be put down to the understanding of the funnel as a whole. You may understand the basics, of flows, you may understand the basics of campaigns, but if you don't understand how the funnel works together as a unit, you're in the dark. So just before I get into the document, this is the funnel I'm going to be referencing throughout the video. As you can see, starting off at the top, we've got pre-opt-in, moving into the opt-in form, then we've got pre-purchase, post-purchase, and then a few miscellaneous bits there. So this is the funnel I'm going to be breaking down in today's video. Alright, here's some client results. Let's get straight into the video. So in this video, I'm going to be running over this funnel in detail and try to help you understand not only how each individual flow and campaign strategy works, but how they work holistically as one unit. So we're going to cover how to capture site traffic, which is pop-up forms, how to get subscribers to convert using our pre-purchase flows, how to increase lifetime value through post-purchase flows and campaigns, outlines for Klaviyo instructions for 9 flows, campaign segments 101, and a few extras as well. So to get a better view of the document, like I said, go ahead, top link in the description. You can use the document completely for free. So yeah, you can zoom in and get a proper look, especially with the Klaviyo instructions. You probably can't see those on this video. So yeah, if you go ahead and get the document, you can zoom in and see everything. So a bit about me, if you want to read that, you can. Let me move on. So site traffic into subscribers. So you spend money on ads, you spend time on content, and you spend years building a reputable brand that people actually talk about. All this obviously leads to site traffic. And after all that, people visit your site once and then forget about you forever. So with a good offer and a good pop-up form to put that offer in front of people, you can capture and own people that otherwise would have been lost. What do I mean by own? Well, your email list is the only marketing channel that you can confidently keep. Ad strategies change, trends change, platforms change, but through it all, you will own your list, regardless if you switch off of Klaviyo, maybe you switch to MailChimp or something, but you'll always own your list. However, it's important to get this right, as without it, your email funnel won't even start. If you can't get people onto your Klaviyo, if you can't get them onto your email list, obviously they're not in the funnel. So this is the most important part. So how to create a high converting pop-up form. In short, we want to test. Every brand is different demographics, different areas, different products, different voice, etc. It's for this reason that there's no cookie cutter way to create a pop-up form for your brand. So here's some tips on what to test and in what order to test them. So the first test you want to be doing is testing the offer itself. This is the largest lever you have with your pop-up form, but it takes the most time because obviously it requires you to change your flow every time, change your welcome flow that is, and also depending on the test you could be drastically redesigning your pop-up form every time as well. So this obviously is the highest effort test, but it's also the highest leverage. So we want to do this first. We want to find our winning offer that our customers are responding to. Once we have this winner, we can move on to the lower leverage test. So not in the document, but some things I like to test is mystery discounts versus normal discounts, buy a certain amount and get a certain amount free, free shipping, different percentages of discounts. So there's many different ways you can go about it. But yeah, the next thing we like to test isn't as much of a test, it's more of just a design tip, is less words. So typically the less words we have on our pop-up form, the less words that people need to read to understand our offer and want to take us up on it, the better, right? So we routinely trim down the copy on our pop-up forms to try and make it as concise as possible. We honestly don't want more than 5-ish words on any given section, at least as far as header words go. So another really high leverage test you can do is the time delay. Test the time it takes for the pop-up to appear. So it may not sound that important, however, you'll be surprised on what other people and different brands respond to. So for example, a brand that we work with have quite an older demographic. As you can imagine, a huge pop-up saying you've got £5 off your first order was really hurting conversion rates. So we went ahead and increased the time delay quite far until we noticed that we were getting diminishing returns. We weren't seeing as many people coming to the pop-up form as we liked. We stopped there, and that's where we're still at today. So yeah, that's a really good test to do. The final test I'm going to talk about here is pop-up behavior. So if you test the time delay and you can't find a sweet spot that's working, you can go ahead and change it from a time delay to different behaviors. So think certain percentage of the website scrolled, certain amount of pages visited, things like that. So yeah, that's another test you can do for your pop-up form. All right, a pro tip for pop-up forms is actually using a platform called Alia. I am not affiliated with this brand at all. I just know that they create the best pop-up forms and they have the best testing and design capabilities, right? So Alia allows for much more customizability, leading to better looking forms, but the most compelling feature is their questionnaires. So as you can see below, all these pop-up forms have questions on them, apart from this one here. But the 1, 2, and 4 all have questionnaires. So it's all about asking your would-be subscribers a multiple choice question to get highly detailed information about them on what they're shopping for. We can use this in our welcome flow to segment that out, and we can also use this in our campaigns to segment people's interests. So here's some designs. Like I said, I'm not actually affiliated with them at the time of this recording. I just think they're great, and they allow you to make really good forms, right? So that's a bit of a pro tip for pop-up forms. Now we know how to actually get people into our funnel, let's start talking about email flows. So I've laid out 9 flows within this doc, 5 of which are categorized as pre-purchase flows. The 5 flows in this section are the welcome flow, the site abandon flow, the browse abandon flow, and then the cart and checkout abandon flows. So something to note is that I call them pre-purchase flows, but anyone can trigger them, obviously. So if someone's made a purchase in the past, they can still access these flows if they meet the criteria. The reason I just call them pre-purchase flows is because the intention behind all of these flows is just to get people to buy, right? Get people to move further up the funnel, so hence the pre-purchase. So pre-purchase flow 1, we've got the welcome flow. So this is the most important flow you build, so make sure we get it right. So the goal of this flow is to get people to buy your stuff using your welcome offer. Sounds pretty basic, right? We do this by not just sending promotions, not just telling people they have a discount. We want to send a mix of educational emails, social proof emails, urgency emails, and promotional emails, all while keeping a welcoming human tone. We don't want this to be too salesy. We want people to actually feel welcome into your brand. So some design tips for this flow: use as much social proof as possible. Even dedicate one whole email. So as you can see on the right hand side, I'm going to go ahead and move over to this document here. As you can see on the flow, we've actually gone ahead and had email 5 for reviews and social proof. So yeah, that's something we do want to put emphasis on in the welcome flow. Keep the copy concise and easy, with maybe one email that goes into some more depth about who you are. So that'll be referencing the second email in the flow, which is like an about us email. That's where you can have some more of the copy and a bit more text heavy email. But general rule of thumb for this flow, we don't want too much copy. And then obviously we're reminding of the welcome offer multiple times per email. So we don't just want to send the first email saying you've got a discount and then just never mention it for the rest of the welcome flow. We need to make sure we're bringing it up in every single email. So as I mentioned as well, Klaviyo instructions for all the flows are in the document. I'll go ahead and show you what they look like for the welcome flow. So as you can see here, we've just got the flow trigger and the profile filters, and then also make sure you pay attention to the time delay after the trigger, because for some of the flows these play a key role. Obviously cart and checkout abandon, you need to make sure you're waiting a certain amount of time before you send in the flow. So that's something to note there. Okay, so just quickly, while we're on the topic of welcome flows, we're currently offering brands that want to step up their email game a completely free 6 to 8 email long welcome flow. We'll have a short conversation about the project. We'll go away, create the flow, swap it out for what you currently have, and we can guarantee that it will outperform your current. If you're not a fan of the emails, or you just aren't looking for any other services after that, that's the last you'll hear from us. No questions asked. You can walk away with your new flow, use our email designs as reference to build out the rest of the flows that are inside this document. And yeah, here's some flow examples. If you are interested and you want to learn more, go over to our website. You can book a call or shoot me an email over there. You can also have a look at some testimonials and some stuff like that. Something to note as well is that we won't be running this forever. So if you're watching this video, in the future, and the offer is no longer in the description, that's why. So let's get back into the document. So second flow in the pre-purchase funnel is the site abandon flow. This is an extremely low intent flow. Doesn't get too many triggers, seeing as how anyone who's on the site is probably going to browse a product rather than just going on your site and leaving. So this is just designed to capture people who went over to your website and get them to view a product or add one to cart. So a lot of people will skip this step, like I mentioned, either because they'll view a product straight away or they'll add to cart rather than just going to the site and leaving. So some design tips. It's only 2 emails, so just be snappy, straight to the point. Just get people back to the site, get them to view products, because worst case scenario, they head over to your website, they view a product, and then they get sent into the browse abandon flow anyway. And then we can do a bit more selling there. So again, Klaviyo instructions in the document for that too. So like I just mentioned, browse abandon flow is next. This is the next stage of the funnel from the site abandon flow, designed to recapture people who have showed some interest in products but never added to cart. All we want to do is get them to add the product they viewed to the cart, or find a new product, or obviously ideally just purchase the product that they viewed. So design tips for this: show dynamic content. So this will vary, but just go ahead, go onto Google, search up Klaviyo, browse abandon, dynamic content, find the correct parameters, plug that into a table inside your email so people can actually see the product that they've abandoned. If people can't see this, they're just so much less likely to actually click and be interested by the email. They're just not interested. But if you actually show them what they were looking at, they're 10 times more likely to actually go ahead and move on to the next step. So same goes for the cart and checkout abandon. So 2 flows with basically the same content but set up as different triggers. These are incredibly important for capturing high intent customers. The goal of these, of course, is to get high intent customers to finish their order with reminders, education, and social proof. These will be set up as 2 flows inside Klaviyo with basically the same content. So we've got an added to cart trigger and a checkout started trigger. So if I go ahead and move into this document, you can see here, I've got 2 different sets of instructions for this, but obviously just go ahead, follow these, nice and straightforward. Okay, design tips for this. Again, show dynamic content. People are 10 times more likely to actually go ahead and finish their order, or at least go check out their cart again if they can see what their cart is. So yeah, that concludes the pre-purchase flow. So just before we get into the post-purchase flow, let's touch on campaigns a bit. So this is the part that educates customers, drives sales with promotions, offers, and educational emails. So the campaign should account for roughly 50% of your total email revenue. We like to be around 50-50, but if it's 60-40 in either direction, it doesn't matter. So a tip for campaigns is try not to get stuck in the trap of only sending promotions and boring emails. People get fed up with these quick. Instead, think of interesting angles to educate people on the brand and the products. And also, don't be afraid to send promotions, but just try to be a bit more interesting with it. Try to get a bit creative with the angles that you send campaigns from, rather than just showing people a load of products and saying buy now. If you do ever get stuck for ideas with campaigns, rather than just sending the boring promotions that we just spoke about, go ahead and use websites like Really Good Emails and Milled. This is just a database of the best emails, the biggest brands. You can see what they're doing, and you can use them for inspiration. Another thing with campaigns is you want to utilize basic segmentation to keep your KPIs in check. We don't want to be sending emails to our full email list, as you probably know, because for a lot of you, that's probably upwards of 20, 30, 50, 100,000 contacts. So we do not want to be sending to all those people at once. So as you can see here, we've got a section for the segments. If you want to have a better look at those, again, go ahead and grab the document. You can see in a lot more detail there. A pro tip, set up an unengaged segment that you manually suppress prior to your build cycle to keep your list healthy. So this is the last segment that I talk about here. But yeah, that's just a really important segment to set up to keep your list healthy. So a minute ago, I mentioned about keeping your KPIs in check. A few benchmarks for KPIs. We want to keep our open rates above 50. Our click-through rates around 1 to 3. Obviously, the higher the better. And unsubscribe rates anywhere below 1. So they're the main KPIs that you want to look out for. In terms of segmentation and KPIs, if you go ahead and check out the engaged segments section, you can see how we're actually sending campaigns. So basically, we're setting up engaged segments from 30 days up to 120 days, and we're sending to the biggest segment possible while keeping our open rates above 50. So yeah, that's sort of the campaign strategy. If you do have any questions about campaigns, I know they're a bit tricky, some people struggle with them, go ahead and leave a comment and I'll make sure to answer. So, the post-purchase funnel. So the next stage of the funnel is dedicated to making people feel good about their purchase, upsell, cross-sell other products, and incentivize repeat purchase. These flows increase customer experience and lifetime value. Why try sell a new customer when you can upsell/cross-sell one that you've already got? Obviously, we do want new customers, but that's just me trying to prove a point. So, moving into the first post-purchase, we have the post-purchase flow. So most people just send a thank you email and ask for a review, but there's a lot more to do than that. So the goal, obviously, we want to give a genuine thank you firstly, making sure to split based on number of purchases to tailor the messaging. So in the flow here, I've gone ahead and split it 3 times. So 1 purchase, 2 purchases, and then anywhere above 3 purchases. You can go ahead and extend this and add more if you want, if to tailor the message even more. But yeah, I recommend at least splitting it 3 times. The goal of the rest of the flow is then to get people excited, which removes buyer's remorse, promote related products, and ask for a review. Again, like I mentioned, increasing lifetime value and creating a better customer experience. Moving into the second flow of the post-purchase funnel, we've got the replenishment flow. So this flow is exclusive for consumable brands, so think supplements, healthcare, cleaning products, food and drink, etc. But the next flow will be for everyone. So if you're not one of those brands, just wait for the next. The goal, if you do sell a consumable product, you should know a rough cadence of when people run out of what you sell. Capitalize on this by sending a few emails close to the time they run out and a few after they run out to remind them to buy more or buy a different product if they didn't enjoy it. So if you go ahead and look at the flow structure for this, this time delay here is basically the time it takes people to consume your product. So if you sell supplements and you sell a 30-day supply, you'd want this to be around 25 to 35 days. So yeah, normally around email 3, we'll be offering a discount just to incentivize people to replenish. So some design tips for this. We do want to promote our subscription services. So most consumable brands nowadays have a subscription service. So we do want to promote that. We also want to promote any other products like I mentioned, just in case they didn't enjoy the one that they did buy. Another important thing to note with this flow, like I mentioned about the subscription service, we do want to make sure we're adding a profile filter that filters out anyone who is subscribed to that service, so they're not getting this flow, because it's pointless for them and they'll be like, why are you sending me these emails? So the win back flow is basically the replenishment flow, but for every brand and on a longer time frame. So the goal of this is to incentivize people to purchase again on a long time horizon. We're talking around 90 to 120 days with this. Use reviews and product releases to create FOMO, while also cross-selling based on products they bought previously. So the idea of this flow is just to get people to buy again. There's quite a lot of nuance with this flow depending on what you sell. Some of you may be thinking that people will only buy your thing once and that's it, but you just need to get creative with the angles of which you're coming at it, which products you're promoting, and things like that. So yeah, design tips: create a personal feel, use discount codes to incentivize repeat purchases if you can. So again, like I mentioned with the last flow, offer discounts if you can. If it's not viable, don't, but obviously that's just going to increase that win back percentage. So the final flow, the bonus flow, is sunset flow. So this flow is extremely important if you want to keep your KPIs up and your Klaviyo bill down. It's just automatic list cleaning. Every month before your billing cycle, you're going to go ahead into Klaviyo and you're going to suppress every profile within this flow. So the goal of this flow, like I mentioned, is to keep the email list clean and healthy by automatically adding unengaged profiles to a sunset flow list, ready to be suppressed before the billing cycle to reduce your Klaviyo bill efficiently. Okay, so some design tips for this, which I haven't actually written on the document, but yeah, we just want to be straight to the point, create a personal feel. We just want people to know that if they don't click on this email, they're going to be suppressed, right? Pretty straightforward, pretty straight to the point, but yeah. Again, like I mentioned, Klaviyo instructions for that inside the document. So that is the end of the document. That runs through the whole e-commerce funnel. Hopefully you understand now how the email strategy works together to form a full funnel. Like I said, get this doc in the description. And yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Again, if you are interested in the welcome flow, go ahead and visit my website, or just shoot me an email. My email's on my website. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you all have a great day. Cheers.